Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to start first with our land acknowledgement. So the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA acknowledges our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino and Tongva peoples. I want to welcome everyone to our virtual Second Look event. Over this half-day event, we want to give you a sense of the community at DGSOM, from our leadership to our students. We are excited to connect with you all today. Before we begin the event, I actually want to first take a moment to congratulate you all on this incredible milestone. This is the first major milestone in your journey. This is a journey you all started many years ago, and it is through your perseverance you are reaching this major milestone, and we are thrilled to be part of your journey. DGSOM is a place where you will become an outstanding physician, and your and is part of your unique journey and your story. You are a group of elite future physicians. You were chosen for your dedication and your passion to improve healthcare delivery for all. You are the future of medicine, and you will provide care to those who need it the most. Your future leaders who will change the face of healthcare. You will develop new treatments. You will innovate how those treatments are delivered and allow for more equitable delivery of those treatments. You will bridge science and humanity to provide holistic care to your patients. We want you to be part of the DGSOM community, and we want you to be part of the larger Los Angeles community, where all communities are represented here in this city, which is one of the most diverse cities in the country. Before I introduce Dean Martin, I want to again congratulate you and let you know how honored we all are to have you be part of the DGSOM community. I now have the pleasure of introducing Dean Martin, who with her vision and leadership has elevated DGSOM and continues to push our institution to greatness. Dean Martin, I will turn over the virtual mic to you now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucero, and welcome to everybody. Now we're at 120 and I see it keeps rising, and I can't tell you how happy I am to see all of you here today for the second look. Of course, I do wish you were here in person. But I am eager to welcome all of you here at the start of your first year of medical school. And I know, no doubt, that you have many choices, and I hope that you're going to come away from the DGSOM second visit with a real strong sense of what's so special about our School of Medicine, and that you end up feeling that you really can see yourself here. We certainly do. We're a relatively young medical school. We're just embarking on our 70th year anniversary, and we take very seriously our role as a public medical school that serves one of the most diverse cities and counties in the country. Our medical school benefits, you can see in the background from Dr. Lucero's Zoom background, benefits from really sharing a single campus with a top-ranked hospital and a large public university that has 6 undergraduate colleges and 10 other professional schools, including schools of nursing, dentistry, public health. And that really does provide tremendous opportunities for all of our students to engage in interdisciplinary, interprofessional research and activities to become physicians. And it's in 2017, we moved into a new medical education building, Geffen Hall, that provides, in a non-COVID world, a beautiful shared space for medical training. And that, together with the campus, which is walkable, and I can say this as somebody who moved here from New York, always beautiful weather, really is an ecosystem that provides just an incredible training ground for world leaders in health and in science. At the DGSOM, our studies, our work, and our interactions are guided by a set of aspirational values that are embodied in the DGSOM Cultural North Star. The Cultural North Star has 3 pillars: do what's right, make things better, and be kind, and 12 purpose statements that really serve to unite us in our shared mission to advance science and medicine, and that set clear and high expectations for our actions and our interactions, and help facilitate problem solving, decision making, collaboration. And when we hold the second look in person at Geffen Hall, we do so in the Gary Shandling Learning Studio on the first floor, a very large open space that has a plaque that I love when you walk in that says, "Nice guys finish first." If you don't know that, then you don't know where the finish line is. And I love having that right at the entrance of our major learning studio. We also have a diversity of clinical training sites across Los Angeles, a diversity of community engagement opportunities and global health opportunities around the globe. Your class will have 4 different tracks: the UCLA Prime track, the UCLA Charles R. Drew track, the medical scientist track. And well, they all follow the same curriculum that you're going to exciting new curriculum that you'll hear a lot more about. There are co-curricular activities and trainings that allow you to pursue particular passions and interests. And we're so much better as a medical school because of that diversity of our class. We have amazing faculty and staff who are here to support our trainees. And I just want to end by saying that this really is the students are the best part of my job, because the idealism, the passion, the commitment that you bring to improving health and well-being, to making discoveries, to serving, really makes all of us better, and fills me, and I know it fills me and all of my colleagues with tremendous hope for the future. So congratulations on getting to this point in your journey to become outstanding physicians, and I really do hope that I get to welcome you here in person in August. And at this point, I want to turn it over and welcome my colleague, my friend, the Vice Dean for Education, and also the Executive Director of the DGSOM Anti-Racism Roadmap, Dr. Clarence Braddock. Clarence, if I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin, and welcome everyone. Exciting to have you here today. We've been looking forward to this for quite some time, and as I know you have as well. I want to echo Doctors Lucero and Martin, and just pointing out that you're here today because we want you to come to DGSOM. So just in case there's any confusion, we want you to come. Some of you are here today because you've accepted an offer of admission and you plan to come, and we're very, very grateful and excited. And for you, today is about learning more about us, about the program, about your future colleagues, and really getting ready to hit the ground running when you start in August. Some of you are still thinking about other schools for some reason, but we know that you have choices. And honestly, we also hope today that you get a good look at our program, meet our students, meet some of us, and you'll give you the kind of information to make a very important decision. And it is a very important decision. And we recognize that you're here because you have a phenomenal record of accomplishments, and you will do well wherever you go. We think you'll do a little bit better if you come here, but we're grateful for those who are here who have decided, and for those of you who are here who are still undecided. As Dean Martin said, and Dr. Lucero, the outstanding physician, and that's kind of the one thing to take away from today and our prior chances to meet you about what are we about as a medical school, because there are 170 some medical schools in the nation, and all of them train people to become physicians, to get an MD degree and go on. What is different, and importantly, why come to DGSOM? And this outstanding physician and is a shorthand for our view of what we are about as a medical school. Our curriculum that you're going to hear about in a few minutes was based on a very important work that we did to kind of articulate our why. Like, why are we training physicians? What are we uniquely hoping to do for you in your career? And our why statement goes something like this. We aspire to empower students to become physicians committed to excellence and leaders in research, innovation, health, education, advocacy, and humanistic care. As you heard before, perhaps on one of our videos, those words were chosen with great intention. The word empower. The word empower is meant to connote a very particular kind of relationship between you as a learner and us as a school, and us as faculty, as teachers. That is to say, you come in with great knowledge, skill, and experiences, and we want to empower you to grow into the physician that you aspire to be. The word health. So we could have chosen healthcare. Why did we choose health? We chose that because we believe as a school that physicians, of course, have the responsibility to provide outstanding, evidence-based, patient-centered care to patients and families. And we believe physicians also must understand the other factors, determinants, social and structural, that influence health, housing, income inequality. And we have a responsibility as physicians, as future physicians, to understand how you can contribute to improving health, even as you're contributing through healthcare delivery. Advocacy. We believe every physician has a role, a civic role to play in health, whether that's through engagement in policy making, whether that's through advocacy, through professional societies. It's a very important factor. So each of those 6 words is meant to connote something very important about what we're about as a medical school. And we hope it excites you, because it excites us, and excites us about the prospect of really launching this new curriculum that you've heard so much about. We've been working on it for several years, starting with that very broad, wise statement and building the pieces over the last couple of years. So I just want to repeat, welcome. So glad you're here today. We hope that today is full of lots of chances for you to learn, get your questions answered, get to know us better, get to know your future colleagues better, and importantly, leave the day as excited about coming here as we are about you coming here. So it's my pleasure now to turn things over to my colleague, Dr. Jason Napolitano, our Associate Dean for Curricular Affairs. Dr. Napolitano is the builder of our new curriculum, and I'm delighted to introduce him to you to tell you more about it. Dr. Napolitano.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Braddock, and welcome everybody. We're excited to have you here today, and also wanted to say thanks in advance for sharing great questions ahead of time. So I think that the structure of what we'll do for the next 45 minutes or so is that I'll give a very brief sort of reorientation to the new curriculum, probably about 5 minutes in length or so. And during that, I'll try and answer as many of the questions that came up ahead of time as I can. And then we're going to open up for Q&A from the audience. And Ashley Seymour, our Director of Curricular Affairs, is going to help facilitate the Q&A portion. Elisa, would it be possible for me to be able to share screen so I could put up a few graphics for the group?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. There we go. All right. So to sort of put us all on the same page to begin with, I thought it would be good just to share the overall schematic of the 4 years of the curriculum. And there's a final schematic just being published, and it'll be available to the group likely within the next week or so, but we can go over it together right here. So in August, on August 9th, we will be starting with base camp. That's 4 weeks of just getting ready for the ascent that is medical school. And it's going to be a fun time to get to know your classmates, to work on several different areas of development. So there will be, the usual introduction to basic sciences and a gradual ramp up over those 4 weeks of basic sciences, but also it's a time to develop the right mindset to succeed in medical school. So we'll be focused on things like mentoring and coaching and getting to know your support system during those weeks. Those weeks have a big focus on advocacy as well, because we think that advocacy is a big part of what you do here at DGSOM. And we'll have our introduction to structural determinants of health also during these base camp 4 weeks. Then for the rest of a year, begins our Foundations of Medical Sciences curriculum, and that's made up of Foundations of Practice, which is where you're going to develop your clinical skills, interviewing skills, physical exam skills, early authentic clinical experience, where you're going to be going out into the community, participating in providing care to individuals here in Los Angeles. And then Scientific Foundations of Medicine, that's where you're going to get your scientific underpinnings for all the care that you're going to provide over the rest of your career. So this, is a solid year here to get through this content with breaks inserted there for chances to catch your breath. we'll talk in a minute about the week-to-week calendar for that year, because I know everyone is curious about that. At the very end of the Foundations of Medical Science content, you'll have a comprehensive basic science assessment, a chance to take a National Board of Medical Examiners assessment to kind of gauge where you are as far as scientific knowledge. We'll have 4 weeks of preparation for your discovery year. That's in the 3rd year, a chance to just explore different projects, meet different possible mentors, and just really get yourself ready for the discovery year and point yourself in the right direction. After that, it'll be on to clerkships. There's 40 weeks of clerkships with 6 intersessions inserted every 8 weeks. Intersessions will be a chance to come off of your clerkships from around the city, come back to Geffen Hall, catch your breath, see any classmates you haven't seen in the last 8 weeks, and then start preparing for the next rotation ahead with things like simulation and case-based studies and physical examination sessions as well. After the clerkships end, you'll head into the 3rd year, which is the discovery year. I have a slide in a bit that Dr. Braddock will help talk over to sort of give you an idea of the different pathways that are developing in the discovery year. And then the 4th year is your electives, residency interviews. There's a capstone at the end where you basically put together all of your skills and make sure you're ready to go on day 1 of your internship. So that's just the global overview of what the 4 years of the new curriculum is going to look like. I think people are very interested in what the first year itself is going to look like, since that's the thing that you're closest to. So I wanted to share this schematic of what the week-to-week calendar is going to look like in the first year. This is starting with that Foundations of Medical Science curriculum. The first 4 weeks are sort of the intro base camp with the focuses we talked about a little bit earlier. When you get to the Scientific Foundations of Medicine and Foundations of Practice portions of the course, this is what the week-to-week is going to look like, starting out with some basic structures the first couple of weeks, but then being organ-based for the great majority of the year. For example, you would do 2 weeks of blood and lympho-reticular system. You have 2 weeks of neuro early, and then 3 more weeks later in the year, based on some basic neuro principles that you need to know to understand how the musculoskeletal system works and how the autonomic innervation of the cardiovascular GI system, et cetera, work. And then, these themes, you can see here you have 4 weeks of musculoskeletal medicine, 4 weeks of cardiovascular, 4 weeks of renal, 4 weeks of respiratory. You'll see that in yellow here is what's called a pit stop. A pit stop is a place to have a little bit of assessment. And I'll just say that, overview of assessment is that the mantra is frequent low stakes assessments in the new curriculum, a chance to kind of gauge how you're learning and fine tune areas that you need to fine tune and get the support that you need to really thrive and master this material. So these weeks are going to have assessment in them, but also time for reflection, time for coaching, time for mentoring as well. And you can see that there's breaks inserted throughout this year: a week off for Thanksgiving, a 2-week winter break, a break that comes in late February that's labeled spring break. It will be springish if you stay here in Los Angeles, but a little cooler if you travel other places in the country at that time. You have a break for a week here in June, another break this week that leads into that comprehensive basic science week, and then a 2-week break right after this week here that's off the grid before you go on to discovery prep. So it is an intensive year of study this first year. The upside to that is we're getting you ready for clerkships, which are going to begin quite early as second year students. We think that's going to offer a vast advantage to basically get that early clinical experience, and that will be the payoff for this dedicated year of intensive study, as will be the payoff for the discovery year and having time carved out to really develop your research expertise, your chance to get that additional degree as well. So the next thing I want to just go over really quickly is, what will a week look like in the new curriculum? There's a lot of questions on that in the questions that were sent to us ahead of time. So this is a sample week. It's in the week of December. It's our first cardiovascular theme week. And there's 4 weeks of cardiovascular. You can see the themes up here. So week 1 is how things are supposed to work, some of the basic physiology of the cardiovascular system. Week 2 is what happens when the pump doesn't work, heart failure. Week 3 is the valves of the heart and how they work, and what happens if there's problems with the valves. And then the final week is the plumbing or the coronary arteries. Each of our themes is sort of built into structures that way that should hopefully make sense as building blocks. So here's what the week is going to look like. So there's going to be a couple lectures per week. We've really cut down on the number of old-fashioned lectures. Sometimes we've just had really compelling lecturers that really deliver a great program, and those are going to stay here and there. Often those will happen early in the week when you need a little bit of foundational knowledge. So this is a lecture on electrophysiology, part 1, and part 2, as you learn the conduction system. There'll be a patient of the week every week on Monday to kind of frame what you're going to see and all the information that's going to come your way, because the reason you're learning all this science is so that you can apply it to people who need you, and much of that in the clinical realm. So this is going to be a clinical unknown where the audience participates and helps drive the differential diagnosis forward with the help of an expert clinician. And then you'll stay tuned during the week as you basically learn the science, and as the week goes on, the answer to the case will become more and more clear. That case will ultimately be wrapped up at the review at the end of the week, but sort of the case is going to act as an advanced organizer to put together all of this information that you're going to be taking in each week. I should note that lectures will be recorded and podcasted, and attendance is not mandatory at a lecture. This here is social and structural and systems issues. There's an hour on this in almost every week of the first year. There's a really robust structural determinants of health curriculum that's developing right now, and we can talk more about that in the Q&A, but there's dedicated time for that in nearly every week of the first year curriculum. Those sessions will be mandatory attendance. We think that discussion is really, really important, and we want everybody to be there and participating in it. So you should assume to commit 30 plus hours to that work during the first year. So then on Tuesday here, you'll see that there's a science study. So in most weeks of the new curriculum, there's about an hour to 2 of independent study per week, where you can just look at some videos, read some handouts, look at some modules on your own time. And those end up being reinforced during the case discussions and the case-based learning. So it's not just that you're sort of learning on your own. This learning is preparatory for application later in the week. Now we see this thing that's called prep for LG. This is preparation for a large group case discussion. And you see that this is on Wednesday and Thursday. And then the cases immediately follow. These would be cases of, linked to real patient experiences that your professors have had. During these discussions, it's audience response, and it's, what would you do next for this patient? What do you think this flow volume loop shows you as far as the diagnosis? chances to stop, ask questions, very interactive. So for these sessions, attendance would be expected. CBL is case-based learning. It's a chance to get into very small groups of 4 to 6 classmates in a room that would have probably 5 to 6 groups and 2 to 3 moderators, where you're going to go from large group discussion to buzz groups with groups of 2 to groups of 6, where you're working through and solving problems together, all based on patient cases with much discussion throughout. That will be regulations permitting in person, almost certainly in person, I should say, as of the latest data that we've gotten. And it should be a really lively discussion. Review is just sort of the review of the topics for the week. There's something called grand finale at the end of every week, where you sort of talk about the horizons of medicine. What sort of exciting research is being done? What comes next? What are some interesting ethical principles that might apply to the medicine that you've been learning over the course of the week? The last things I'll talk about are that in blue is the laboratory experiences. So things like this week, there's a pharmacology lab on the autonomic nervous system. There's an anatomy lab on the basics of cardiovascular anatomy. And there's a chance to review basic EKGs with clinical preceptors. In the afternoon, it's devoted to foundations of practice, where you're learning those clinical skills, and early authentic clinical experience, where you're going out into the community to provide care. Foundations of practice is on Monday and Thursday. It's in person with a seasoned clinician, where you're going through cases, doing ultrasounds, interviewing standardized patients, doing physical examination. So I know that's a lot, but I think people are really, really curious about what the anatomy of the weeks are going to look like. One other slide I'm going to go to, and then we're going to get right to questions. I'm going to put up a little slide of the areas of concentration in the discovery year. And I was hoping that Dr. Braddock might reappear to give us a little bit of overview here of the discovery year.
Yes, glad to. And Dr. Napolitano, you can see there's a question there you may want to address about the frequent low stakes exams. So just to say that, the discovery year is really a fantastic, new, very exciting component of the curriculum. And you can think of it as a year to explore what comes after the word "and" in outstanding physician. And big picture, really 2 options for you. One is to pursue a master's degree. We have existing relationships and are adding many more. We have the Master's in Public Health with the Fielding School of Public Health, Public Policy with the Luskin School of Public Affairs, MBA with the Anderson School of Management. We have a new Master in Legal Studies with the Law School. We have a Master's in Social Science, Social Welfare, working on a Master's in Education. So there are a lot of options for master's degree. Some master's degree, a few of them are 1-year programs. You'll be able to do that in that discovery year. Some are 2 years or a little less than 2 years. In those cases, we do those as a concurrent degree, meaning that you'll do most of your coursework for that master's during the discovery year. And then you can intermix your MD 4th year with the remaining of the work for the master's degree. So almost certainly everyone will be able to complete, who chooses to do a master's degree, to complete that within the 4 years. The other option for you during the discovery year is to become part of one of these areas of concentration. And the idea is that you'll have a dedicated period during that 3rd year in which you'll be engaged in mentored scholarly work in an area of interest to you. And the 8 areas, broadly speaking, are shown here. Basic clinical translational research is pretty obvious, bench research, clinical trials, translational work, and there'll be a variety of opportunities with faculty who have defined projects in which you can work with those faculty in those projects. And your discovery year will culminate with a creative product that will reflect your work. Global health, we've had a phenomenal track record for a long time of global health, and that will continue. The 3rd, social science, and medical humanities, a relatively growing area in our medical school, a combination of social sciences, humanities, comparative literature, a variety of areas. And the creative work there, of course, may look quite different than traditional biomedical research. But in fact, that's why we're including it, because we want to have a broad set of opportunities. Innovation and entrepreneurship, we have a phenomenal biodesign program and a lot of activities on campus, particularly intersections between the clinical world, biomedical sciences, engineering, Anderson School of Management. So it's a really exciting new area. Health justice and advocacy will be kind of a focus on social structural determinants of health, structural racism, advocacy efforts. And so again, rather different, but a very exciting area. Bioinformatics and data science has become phenomenally important in modern medicine, not just in the care of patients, but looking at a systems and population level to improve care. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Medical education and leadership. So I have a special affinity for this as a leader in medical education, but to learn about the science of teaching and learning, to take that both to the application as a teacher, but also the opportunity to do scholarly creative work around innovations in medical education. Health delivery improvement science is really the evolution of traditional quality improvement, to marry that with health services research methods to look at healthcare delivery at the macro level. And so we have a phenomenal community of faculty working in this area. So if you choose the area of concentration, your trajectory will look something like this. We'll start when you come here in August. The roughly first half of the year, we'll have a period called exploration. And there'll be regular sort of lunch and learn sessions with faculty. We'll be talking about their research areas within these 8 areas of concentration, just for you to get a taste and a flavor of what are the options, what are the opportunities. Latter part of your first year, we'll call that a little bit more deeper exploration. So your ideas of what you might be interested in will start to crystallize, and you'll have the opportunity to meet with faculty in those areas to talk about particular project ideas. And before the second year, you have that period of time for discovery prep, which will be a lot of time to meet and start to think about projects, to learn more about the field through seminars and such. And the goal is that when you start into your clinical year, you'll be well on your way to having to reach a decision point about, are you going to do a master's degree, or are you going to do a mentored project in one of these areas of concentration? So our faculty are wildly excited about the opportunity to work with you. There's a lot of phenomenal research across the spectrum of everything I've mentioned here, not just within the School of Medicine, College of Life Sciences, but the campus as a whole. And we really, through this, are trying to leverage the entirety of campus to be sort of your playground to explore these areas and really define that outstanding position and the "and" part. So I'm sure there'll be more questions about this as we get into the Q&A, and certainly this afternoon in the casual conversations, I'm happy to talk about it more for those who are interested.
Thank you very much, Dr. Braddock. All right, so I wanted to leave plenty of time for question and answer. There's still a handful of questions that I didn't get to yet that were sent to us ahead of time, but I think we could go to the live questions now, and we'll likely end up answering everything that had come up. And if not, we'll work in those other answers as well. And sorry, I wasn't able to type into the Q&A while I was sharing screen right there. So I think with that, we can get started with some question and answer. Ashley, do you want to feed some questions as I talk, or do you want me to review in the Q&A box? But
happy to feed them to you.
Sounds good.
So the first one is about the low stakes exams, and if we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like, since the pit stops only occur every 6+ weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that the curriculum committee has been spending a lot of time in this area. We really want to get the assessment portion right. So the the overarching goal is this frequent low stakes assessment. We don't want the assessments to be a barrier as much as we want them to be a chance to have you, see where you are. See, we all have sort of areas that we need to, strengthen, and special topics and organ systems that just like come more easily and some that we all, struggle with. There will be weekly assessment questions that will be scored so you can keep track of your performance. It's likely that those questions will be released on a daily basis. For example, if you're doing that cardiovascular topic and you're learning about coronary artery disease and how atherosclerosis develops in the coronaries and what that pathology is, that same night you would get a release of somewhere between 3 to 5 questions, and they'll be mostly application level, the same as the type of questions on the boards where you get a case stem and you have to sort of put together that information you learned that day, that those facts, apply them to a patient scenario. And then you'll be able to get some feedback on your performance for those questions. And each day of the week, those questions will pop up. We know that some people study in different ways and in different chunks, so those aren't due per se every evening, but you have the chance to work on them at your pace with the expectation that they be completed before the next week's material comes along. Those questions, will be scored, but the remediation for if you're struggling with those questions really ends up being more supportive, being linked up with tutoring, having review sessions, having an extra question set where you might be able to strengthen those areas. So that's really low stakes. It's really just a chance to see your learning and engage it. And we are apt to give a lot of questions to work through. Some of the literature on what helps people's performance on board exams. One of the things that really positively correlates is the number of practice questions that you've worked through ahead of time. Then in the pit stop weeks themselves, there'll be assessment of different domains, not just the cognitive domain and the medical facts that you've been learning, but the psychomotor domain when you do your objective standardized clinical examinations called an OSCE, where you'll go into a standardized patient's room and take a history and do a physical on someone, let's say having chest pain during that cardiovascular week. You're going to be linked with these educators for excellence who are expert clinicians that are all practicing right now, that if you struggle or have any challenges with parts of your history or your exam, you'll be immediately remediated that week with your educator for excellence, who's going to be sort of working as your coach. On the anatomy front, there will be weekly quizzes throughout the weeks, just because it's nice to sort of get those reps in and start identifying structures. And then there'll be a practical exam during the pit stop weeks. The likely format is going to be that some of the final sort of the final demonstration of your proficiency will come from the weekly quizzes, and those will sum up with what happens in the assessment weeks, the pit stop weeks, so that pit stop week isn't sort of just a make or break. It's sort of combined with what you've been learning all along in smaller chunks. And then finally, for the computerized examinations during the pit stop weeks, we're hoping that people are going to be in a really good spot after this, frequent low stakes assessments during the weeks leading up to the pit stop weeks. And we have some immediate remediation planned if you end up struggling with the exam during the pit stop week, where you can meet with core faculty to strengthen those areas that you were challenged in. And I should say that the first year is completely pass fail, and very much likely pass. So the scores that you get are more for your own knowledge and your own development. Those aren't cataloged anywhere. There's no internal ranking. The only thing that they will be looked at for is just to see if we should reach out and offer you things like extra tutoring. So hopefully that explains a little bit about the assessment framework.
Great. We've got a lot of questions about clinical grading, being pass-fail and what that's going to look like for this class.
Yeah, I'm happy to say a couple words about that, and then Dr. Napolitano, you can add. The short answer is right now, and certainly for the future, we are committed to, as Dr. Napolitano said, to pre-clerkship activities being basically pass. That's the goal. And the concept for us conceptually is frequent assessments for primarily for you as a learner to see how you're doing and tracking on mastery of the material and such, and a comprehensive assessment check-in at the end of that first year. The clerkship grading is, I'll just say, is an issue that we're looking at. When I first came here in 2013, clerkships were pass-fail. There was actually a student initiative to develop grades. Like, why would students want clerkship grades? And it's a complex set of reasons, but the primary thing is to have a measure of performance that can, when you go to apply for residency, can be a piece of information that helps to have you be more competitive. And certainly with there's a lot of emphasis on board exams. There's a view that having other more granular measures of your performance in clerkships can be an advantage for you as an applicant to residency. There's also people who aren't in favor of grades. So we're actually in the process of re-looking at that question. And when I say re-looking at it, we're doing analysis of our existing grading program. We're working closely with the Medical Student Council to think about this very actively. We made a decision to go back to pass-fail this past year and the current year and next year, primarily because of many of the changes and stressors of the pandemic. But anyway, that's a long answer, but to say that we're actively looking at that question. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dr. Napolitano.
No, I think that's a perfect summary, Dr. Braddock. Next up, I do want to speak to a question about, what's the estimated, time commitment for mastering the material each week. We put that calendar up there, and it looks pretty busy for that first year. And I think it's fair to say that the first year in medical school is always a significant commitment to, pick up the information that's being covered. But one thing to say is that the calendar may look busy, but some of that is because we tried to incorporate things like asynchronous video review on the calendar. So I think, one mistake that other schools have made when they transition to more of a flipped classroom model is that only the things that are live end up on that calendar, and then everything else you just sort of forget that there's like 20 hours of videos that are out there for the class to watch. So we tried to put everything on the calendar, whether that was a discussion or a foundations of practice session, or if that was an asynchronous review. We estimate that in 60 hours or less over the course of the week, you should be able to master the information. Some will study less than that. Some will study more, but we do think that 60-hour or less mark, probably more like in the 50-hour range is a reasonable estimate. That's what we think that the weekly commitment of hours will be for the average learner.
Great. The next question is regarding step 2 and step 1 moving to pass fail, and how that will play a bigger role in their residency applications, and how has our curriculum adapted to shift some time into study and focus for prep for those exams?
Yeah, great question, and really a lot of talk about this across the nation. We're not entirely sure, to be honest, us or anyone else, how the residency programs are going to adapt to the pass-fail model of step 1. In general, most of us think that that's a good thing, that step 1 is going to pass-fail. And the new curriculum is built in a way that you'll be prepared adequately for step one without a doubt. As sort of day-to-day, hour-to-hour now, I'm working with those faculty that are putting together the pre-clerkship curriculum. I really do think you're going to be well prepared for step one, but I think you're going to be even more prepared for step two. That early clinical exposure, there's sort of a before and after phenomenon. When we work with students, and having been a medical student, the way that things are thought about and memorized and learned before you hit the wards are just different than after your clerkships, after you've provided care to numerous patients and been on numerous teams and sort of understand the way that that care is rendered, and that the systems that we work within function. So, getting to that work during the second year is really going to help you start learning that clinical piece well. And step two is very clinically focused. There's science that's correlated with step two, but it's really, application of pharmacology, application of pathophysiology to patient care recommendations and specific recommendations that you would make as a clinician. So you'll be in that realm early, and you'll be taking National Board of Medical Examiners shelf exams after each clerkship, which really is a practice for step two. It's the same body that puts out step two as that puts out those exams, and we've got a fair amount of support in place to sort of help you through those exams during clerkships. And then once you finish clerkships, you've got quite a period of time between finishing those clerkships and when you're going to have to have a score in for your step two. So, a pretty significant amount of study time and flexibility in which you can take that step two. You can take it right away coming out of your clerkships if you are just, feeling really confident and scoring well on those shelf exams and coming right off of acquiring that clinical knowledge. There's interesting discussions of, people taking step two even before their step one. There's no policy that precludes that. And we'll probably chat about that more as your time here proceeds. But, if you're not ready right after those clerkship experiences, then there's additional time during the discovery year that you might take that exam. You'll be involved in a longitudinal clinical experience, and we'll still be strengthening those skills. So I will say that. And then I think maybe written into that question is just sort of how our residency is going to assess us if there's a pass-fail. Pre-clerkship curriculum, step one is pass-fail, and there's a possibility that the clerkships will be pass-fail as well. Keep in mind that in the fourth year, there is 4-tier grading, and there's no plans for that to change. By the time you get to your electives, everybody's sort of on, equal footing. They've had a chance to go through a clerkship year. They're working in the area that they're really passionate about. So you will have some of that data that goes forward to programs. And then your work you're doing during the discovery year, your research, your community advocacy, that's all looked at by programs. And even in let's say a pass-fail clerkship setting, what people write about you, what your actual behaviors are. I like, when I worked with so-and-so, I saw them spend extra time talking to ex-patient and their family and demonstrating amazing compassion and communication skills. Those written narratives are looked at really closely by residency programs.
Do you want to speak to in-person activities for fall and what our plans are?
Yes, I can definitely speak to that with a little twist in there of saying that, many have seen that the governor of California kind of said that we would be wide open by about mid-June. So there's sort of, we're all hoping that will be the case. And I think there's sort of a plan A and a plan B. Even if, let's say, I don't foresee this, but let's say that something happened and the current, restrictions for physical distancing were still in place. We do have a plan and a method to have things like anatomy in person, physical exam course in person, and we have a history of pulling those things off and doing them well, and actually doing them mid-pandemic. This year we kept our anatomy program up and running, and almost on a daily basis now, people come up and thank us for keeping that running, because it really is an immersive and enjoyable experience. So we do have ways to run all those things in person, at the right capacity per room, physically distanced, PPE. So there will be plenty of in-person activities. The question is, if there are density restrictions, things like our large group discussions would have to remain online, interactive, kind of the way we're interacting now, and all the Q&A questions popping up. That's how the large group Q&As would work, and the lectures would work if we were under space restrictions. But personally, my fingers are crossed that those are going to be those would be lifted, and even those sessions would be in person as well.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is that the University of California is a system. The president of the system, President Drake, has already committed the entire university system to be in person beginning in the fall 2021. So campus, generally starts in September. Because as a professional school, we start much earlier. The one question is between August and September. Gauging by prior experience, the campus has generally recognized our distinct situation. So I'd say it's probably, just to add to what Dr. Napolitano said, probably 90% more probability that when we start in August, we'll be in person. That the caveat, as he said, is that, for the modest amount of lectures, and it'll be very specifically told to you about what things are in person. That'll be very obvious versus what things you could decide to podcast. Even pre-COVID, for lectures, students have the option to either live cast lectures or from another location, or to watch at a later time. But I'd say 90% chance we'll be in person. I'm busily trying to type in answers to your questions about
And
I was going to say we have we will have a few minutes, so maybe we can do 1 or 2 more questions live, and then yes, Dr. Braddock and Dr. Napolitano will finish answering the questions in the chat there. So I'll turn it back over to Ashley and Dr. Napolitano.
So there's a question about the pit stop weeks and if the assessments will be held virtually or if students will be required to be on campus.
There will be a requirement to be on campus that week, because the anatomy practical is definitely going to be in person, and the OSCE exams are definitely going to be in person as well. The computer exams, we're still we still need to make a decision on whether those will be administered in an in-person proctored setting or via a virtual administration based on the history that we've had for the last year of administering virtually. We'll probably have that luxury to make that decision, and that piece has not been decided yet.
Can I know we're running short on time. There's a question about the longitudinal clerkship, which I did not talk about in the discovery year. So just the one-liner. The idea of the longitudinal clerkship is that so between your core clerkships and your MS4 year, that you continue to have to maintain your clinical skills and to start to explore an area of potential specialty interest. So if you think of MS2 year as the year that everybody does to get a solid foundation across specialties and to start to form your idea of what specialty you might want to go into, think of the MS3 year, the longitudinal clerkship, as the time where you can deepen your interest in a potential specialty. So you'll have a day a week that you'll spend in a clinical setting of your choice, specialty-wise. Could be primary care, it could be a specialty, could really be anything. And you'll be working with a set of faculty over the course of that year. We're looking at an option where you could do two, one the first half, one the second half. But that's the idea, so that when you go through that year, you'll still have the opportunity to maintain a connection with clinical practice.
So let's see, Dr. Lucero, we're right at 9:59. Should we try and sneak in one more, or shall I introduce Dr. Miller?
Let's sneak in one more and then we'll go to Dr. Miller.
Sounds good.
Okay, there's a question about if selectives will be offered during that first year.
Yeah, a good question. I will say that the selective catalog is really going to be narrowed down. There won't be any required selectives in the new curriculum, as you know, some of the previous questions alluded to. There's a lot on the calendar in the first year, so we don't want to give any other requirements outside of the curriculum that you see on that calendar. There will be a select few, pun partially intended, choices. I think things like global health are still likely to have an optional selective for people that are thinking more about a pathway approach. And then the last comment I'll make is a lot of the opportunities or the things you learn about in selectives are really going to be heavily offered during the discovery year. So the concern shouldn't be, there were some areas of exploration that I wanted to pursue during selectives, and now I'm going to miss out on that. Those are all going to be available during the discovery year.
And the only thing I'd add is, just to think about, our current kind of collection of selectives has really very much been a grassroots kind of supply demand for quite some time, and that won't change. If there are areas where there maintains interest, for example, I advise a bioethics selective. Those things can and will continue. The requirement to do selectives will not be there, but you certainly can do those. Secondly, there will be probably certainly the growth and the expectation of things that will look like selectives. There'll be seminars to kind of, in that second half of first year, to begin to deepen your exploration into an area. And those will certainly grow. There'll be a lot more of those. We'll have more on that as we hear. We're asking or inviting faculty to submit proposals for those programs. So that will be, so we'll have some selectives which will remain. You'll still have the option to do those. There'll be the lunch and learns for exploration, area concentration, seminars and such. So there'll be lots of things that you can do, lots.
Great. So I wanted to thank everyone for these great questions. We're going to be typing away as the next sessions begin to try and get all the questions answered. And as a reminder, during the casual chats with the deans later, stop in, see Dr. Braddock, see me. We're happy to keep answering these outstanding questions that are coming up. So next up, it's sort of my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Lee Miller. Dr. Miller is the Associate Dean for Student Affairs, and it's really one of the best parts of my job to get to work with Dr. Miller, and I think one of the best experiences as a student to have Dr. Miller as the Dean of Students and his immense support through everything that you face through 4+ years as a medical student. So welcome, Dr. Miller.
Jason, thank you for those those kind words. For folks who are with us today, I feel so fortunate to have the partners that I have, and I want to extend a super warm welcome to all of you. It's so nice to be able to connect today. We had an opportunity to connect with a lot of you during the interview season, but now on the other side, it's wonderful to welcome you to the family. I'm going to spend just 2 or 3 minutes with a quick overview of some key points about student affairs, and then we're going to get to our first student panel of the day and give you the opportunity to connect with students at each level of training. But first, a little bit about my background. I'm a pediatrician. I've been at UCLA for 34 for 34 years. I was raised in New York. I went to college in Maine, med school in Virginia, and then right after my training, I moved to Los Angeles and have been involved in medical education throughout the years with really three major passions. One is teaching pediatrics. The second is my love for global health education. And the third is the opportunity to connect with folks such as yourselves and work with folks to navigate the process throughout medical school. And that's been an incredible privilege and a real joy. Now, we don't have the students on yet, so I can't see their faces, but they probably be smiling or maybe laughing because I'm going to use going to share one of many dessert analogies with you now that they've heard over the years, different analogies. But this is a dessert analogy, and you folks are really likely in the privileged position of being able to decide where you would like to attend medical school. And you're going to get a great education at medical schools all across the country, but they're all going to have a very different flavor or a different spirit. And your mission today is really another opportunity for taste testing to get a feel for the spirit of DGSOM. And you're choosing dessert, most of you, and we hope that you'll have an opportunity to really palpate the spirit of our program by the end of these sessions today. And I could promise you that if you do choose to do your medical school education here, there will be a very large team of folks who are so absolutely committed to support you along the way. Now, in the student affairs arena, I just want to highlight a few important points and some of the things innovations that I think are illustrative of this. And I'm mentioning these as sort of an intro, 30,000 foot. Many of the questions that came in advance were related to these, and I just want to set the stage because we'll be building upon this throughout the panel and also throughout the subsequent session this afternoon. One area is the society system, and we felt very strongly that we wanted to build an even deeper support system and safety net for folks, to have more folks looking out for you. And every DGSOM student before arriving is assigned to one of 4 societies, and the societies all have Latin names that coincidentally begin with the U, a C, an L, and an A. And your society dean will join me and Dr. Braddock and Dr. Napolitano and so many of us on the team to look out for you over your years here at UCLA. And your society dean will call you before you arrive, and they'll say, "Hi, I'm Deb. I'm going to be working very closely with you throughout the years. Here's my cell phone number. Call me if you have any questions." And they will also be with you on the stage when you're getting hooded and earning your MD degree. So I encourage you to learn more from our students about the society system. Second, the second innovation is that we have markedly expanded our mental health and well-being initiatives for medical students, and that's really highlighted by the opening of the Behavioral Wellness Center, the BWC, to meet the needs of our medical students and residents and students in the health sciences. And then a new program that we rolled out this year is a program to provide increased mentorship and career advising for medical students really from day one. And we're calling that the Specialty ACE program. These are specialty advisors for career exploration. And there's a designated team in each specialty to whom you could reach out if you'd like to learn more about their specialty, pursue research opportunities in their discipline, shadow, and literally your ID badge when you arrive at DGSOM will literally and figuratively open open doors for you, and you will have an opportunity to connect with folks in all different disciplines. And your first weekend, you could be in the delivery room, or watching a C-section, or heart transplant, or working at a community clinic. And all of us on the team will help to facilitate those kinds of experiences. So much more than hearing from me, it's really the opportunity to hear from some of our current students. So let's start with some introductions. And I'm very grateful that we have a team of 8 students who are going to turn on their cameras now, please. And thank you, folks. And why don't we start with some introductions, and maybe you can each introduce yourselves, tell us your year in medical school, maybe where you're from, where you went to school, and maybe one activity that you've been interested in or involved in at DGSOM over the years. So let's start with, we'll go from MS1 to MS4. So Hannah, you're up first.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Miller. My name is Hannah. It's nice to see everyone. I am a first year here at DGSOM. Very excited to be here. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, so I'm a little bit of a ways from home, but I'm loving the sunny California weather. And I went to Yale for undergrad. And since starting at DGSOM, I've been involved in a couple of different things. Next year, I'll be a co-coordinator for the Medicine Pediatrics Interest Group, so I hope to see some of you there. I've also been a part of the START admissions team, and also helped out with some mentorship programs through Charles Drew University. So looking forward to seeing some of you hopefully in the fall.
Great, thank you, Hannah. Angie, so we're moving to MS2.
Hi, everyone. First of all, congrats on getting into the best school in the nation, probably in the world. My name's Angie. I'm a current second-year medical student. I'm from Rancho Cucamonga, California, which is just a little bit further inland from Los Angeles. I went to Pomona College, so go liberal arts colleges. And a couple of things I've been involved in here at DGSOM include serving on the Medical Student Council as a well-being representative, participating in the Global Health Pathway as a selective leader, and as well anatomy tutoring. Congrats again.
Thank you. Thanks, Angie. Nanye, there you are. Wait, you're still on mute, Nanye.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nonye. Welcome. I'm also an MS2, also from Rancho, best city in SoCal. And I went to MIT for undergrad. I'm also part of the Prime and Drew program. So if you have questions about that, feel free to hit me up later. As well as things I'm involved. I'm also on the Medical Student Council. I'm the class president. I've been helping out with like Prime Council stuff, Drew stuff, also an anatomy tutor this year, which was really great. And I'm also a part of Sling Health, which is kind of like a engineering businessy kind of startup thing that we have at UCLA that's really fun.
Thank you, Nunye. That's a complete coincidence about the Rancho Cucamonga, and I'll really flip out if Sam tells us he's from Rancho Cucamonga too. All right, so we're moving on to our MS3s.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam. I'm a third-year student, originally from Albany, not Rancho Cucamonga, and I went to Williams College in Massachusetts for undergrad. At DGSOM, I've been pretty involved with the global health community as well. I helped run one of the student-led conferences in global health, and I went to Malawi to do research between my first and second year.
Great. Thank you, Sam. And straddling the third and fourth year, a rising fourth year is Alex, and Alex has taken this year off, and we thought it would be helpful for you to be able to pick the brain of folks who have pursued a graduate year along the way. So Alex.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Alex. I had trouble, designating myself as an MS4. I went MS4 to MS3.5/LOA. I'm part of the Prime LA program. I am familiar with Rancho Cucamonga. I went to California State University, San Bernardino. IE represent, grew up in Hesperia, California. I've been involved in LMSA, anatomy tutoring, and some work with the Gold Humanism Honor Society.
Great. Thank you. We're looking forward to welcoming you back officially in just a few months, Alex. All right, now we're moving up to our MS4s, Kalunji.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kalunji. My roots are in Detroit, Michigan, but I was raised in Tallahassee, Florida. Went to Florida State University for undergrad, came out here for med school. I'm a part of the Charles Drew UCLA program. Things I've been involved in, I've been a tutor at DGSOM over the years. I've also been involved in the American Medical Association and the California Medical Association throughout the years. And I also do some work on the admissions committee and the curriculum committee over at Drew. Congratulations to everybody once again.
And Kalunji, why don't you tell them what you're training in and where you're going?
Yes, I'm training. I matched into internal medicine, and I'll be moving to Dallas to train at the University of Texas Southwestern. So all of my Texas and Floridians in the hat or in the house, get at me. In the hat, what? Not nervous.
All right, and Orly.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Orly. I grew up in Israel and also in Chicago, and then found my new home in California about 10 years ago before coming to UCLA. I forgot what the other questions are. I think,
undergrad.
Undergrad. Okay, yeah, thank you, Dr. Miller. I went to community college up in Berkeley and then to UC Berkeley. And then I have been involved in a lot of things at DGSOM. I think the biggest thread is kind of teaching. I taught in Anatomy Academy in my first and second year, and also did anatomy tutoring. So happy to see so many people doing it here. And then also was a tutor and participated in some of the COVID affected curriculum as well last year. Really passionate about teaching. And then I am going into family medicine and I matched at UCLA. So I'll be staying close by and I hope to see all of you at Santa Monica on your family medicine rotation.
Lucky us that you stayed. And Pradeep.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Pradeep. I'm a fourth year medical student in the UCLA Caltech Medical Scientist Training Program. I did my PhD in molecular, cellular, and integrative physiology, studying how the nervous system remodels after you have a heart attack. I grew up just outside of Chicago and went to Stanford for undergrad, and I've been involved in a number of different groups in my 10 years at UCLA, including the Medical Student Council and the Medical Innovation and Medical Technology groups as well. Couples matched into internal medicine with my wife, and we'll be going to MGH and moving to Boston in a couple months.
And training in?
Training in internal medicine.
Great, congrats. All right, thanks for those intros. So we have a lot of questions that were submitted in advance, and there are probably going to be a bunch that are coming up in the Q&A. And I've tried to separate some that would be best for the students to answer versus others that I can address in the session this afternoon. So how about affinity groups? Some questions about that. How do we involve ourselves in affinity groups? Who would like to tackle that one?
I'm happy to give that a shot. So when I first came to UCLA, I think within the first week or two, there was like student organizations fair where you were exposed to basically all the different student organizations you can be involved in as a first year medical student. And then the really nice thing that I loved about kind of the community at UCLA is that if there wasn't a student group that was available, there's always the opportunity for you to create one. So I remember, I think my second year, there was a group that me and a classmate wanted to start on medical innovation. And so we co-started that group, and I think it's been successful and transformed into different things over the years. But I think, yeah, there's a ton of opportunity for career-specific interest groups, like if you're interested in cardiology or oncology, but there's also a number of different groups that I think many of us have been involved in that are based on other interests that kind of are outside of career-specific interest groups.
Great. And there's a team within the Student Affairs Office that is very active in supporting all of the student interest groups, and also making sure that our student body is aware of the activities on a medical school calendar. All right, if you weren't staying home because of a pandemic, what would you folks be doing? What would you enjoy doing on a Saturday afternoon in LA? You probably each have something that you can do. So Hannah, what would you do?
I'd probably be outside. I cannot get enough of the LA weather, especially being Canadian. So if there's anyone from cold weather out there, you will absolutely love the beach and the palm trees and the Santa Monica Mountains. It's really beautiful. So I'd probably be hiking or running outdoors. Some of the older students might have some good suggestions for me as well, because I'm definitely new to the area.
Other things, jump in there, folks.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Angie, go.
Too excited. One of my quarantine hobbies that I developed was surfing. So don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it's something very popular in Southern California that you can do. It's pretty easy. I think actually in a lot of the classes, I mean, it's pretty easy to get started in that there are usually some students in each class that are already just naturally talented surfers who will kind of like get a camp together. I happen to live with one of them, so it's been extremely easy for me to sort of jump on that bandwagon. But yeah, it seems like in every class there are definitely some students who kind of like lead the charge, and so that's one thing. A lot of students in our class are also very active. So we've started a group on Strava. I think it's called a club that people can join and kind of post all their different activities. See a lot of people doing running, biking. And so it's just a great way to, again, kind of build community while still independently kind of maintaining social distance.
What were you going to say? Or go ahead, Nanye.
Oh, no, go Orly.
Oh, I was just going to echo what everyone's saying. I mean, being outside, being in LA, having such good weather all the time, really being outside is the biggest thing that you can do even during a pandemic. So my family and I have 2 kids. We try to get outside every weekend, at least one of the days, you know, even if it's just to a park. There are so many parks. There's a lot of green space in LA, which is kind of surprising. And then the beach and the mountains are really great as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in like a non-outside active point of view, I'd probably be at like the movies or something and then get some food afterwards, maybe some donuts. There's like amazing donuts in Santa Monica. So honestly, food in LA is always an amazing thing to do, pandemic or not.
Right, Pradeep just put in, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, just another quick shout out for sedentary activity, coffee shops, especially during normal, and outside too, because you can sit outside in January and February in coffee shops, which is amazing.
And Pradeep, you just wrote in this chat, Inspiration Point hike in Pacific Palisades. How many folks have done that? Well, we know Pradeep has.
You should watch the sunset there if you haven't. Highly recommend.
Okay, great. So what advice would you folks have for an incoming first-year medical student to DGSOM? What is it that you think you could pass along to them? And maybe we'll start with the senior students, because they have a very different perspective. So Kalunji, Pradeep, Orly, what do you think?
Yeah, so advice that I would kind of give myself if I was in your position, about to start medical school, would be to kind of like lean into the resources early on. I know that like once I started, there was like, you know, a little bit of that, you know, imposter syndrome, and I also just kind of felt like I needed to just be smart enough and just, you know stuff, you know, on my own. And it's not until kind of like going through the entire process that I realized that, you know, nobody is really like that. Everybody kind of leans on each other. And one of the things that I love about UCLA so much is that it's the polar opposite of like a kind of a cutthroat environment where people are, you know, hiding their resources, or, you know, trying to, you know, be gunners on people. Like everybody is super friendly. Everybody wants everybody to succeed, from other colleagues to the faculty and staff. So for me, I had like, I think it was after my the first block that I got involved in tutoring. And then once I started getting tutored, I was like, this is awesome. And now I'm a tutor. And so that would be my advice, just to go ahead and do that, you know, early on. You make friends in the process, you build relationships in the process, and it also makes you just like a better student in the long run.
Other thoughts?
I'll just echo what you said. I mean, just ask for help early if you need it, because we all need help. And if I hadn't asked for help in my first block, I wouldn't be where I am today. Dr. Miller and Dr. Lehman were my supporting pillars in the first 6 months of medical school. So just ask for help if you need it. Don't be afraid.
I think the last thing that I'll add on is to kind of echo what Orly and Kalunji said, or also just try to find mentors that you're really excited to work with and be proactive about finding that mentorship. I think there's so many people within the UCLA community that are excited to work with medical students. And if you find people that you're interested in working with, just shoot them an email or ask one of your society mentors to connect you with them. And I think you'll be surprised at how willing people are to work with you.
Great. And for folks who are not fourth years, other thoughts, anything else that you think would be important to pass on to folks who are trying to make a decision about where to go to medical school, or that you wish that you knew when you started?
I can add quickly, from a preclinical point of view, the summer leading into this, don't do anything. If you can quit your job, quit your job. It's the pandemic, so obviously you can't go that many places, but just chill, don't do anything. P really does equal MD, when you first start, I think everyone tries to get 100% on everything, and really you the quicker you can lose that, the more you can embrace all the opportunities that DGSM has, all the things that go outside of school that kind of enrich what you are as a physician. Don't forget the parts of you that aren't school, that aren't studying 12 hours per day. I think people really hear me say this right now, but you're not going to get it till block 2. Once you pass block 1, you're okay, I'm fine. But really just go into it everything's a learning experience. Meet all these new people. You're not going to get a chance to do it again like that. So yeah.
Great. And Alex, maybe you can share a little bit of perspective about for students who are in the prime program and for students who are not in the prime program who are considering doing a master's degree, what that experience has been like for you.
Yeah, so it's been a great experience. I think with the new curriculum, there isn't the additional year, huh?
Well, folks may be able can incorporate their master's into the discovery year.
I see. Yeah, either way, I found it really to be meaningful in terms of broadening the scope that I have in terms of medicine and everything that entails into medicine. Typically in our clerkships, it's typically one-on-one patient care. But here I'm doing my master's in management at the School of Public Health here at UCLA, but it's really taught me, the financial aspect of healthcare and everything that impacts that, how billing occurs and how to accumulate resources, how hospitals stay afloat. And it really has really broadened my perspective in terms of why some things are implemented and why other things are not. And I could go off on a tangent in terms of the impact, especially with some of the things that, we preach here at DGSOM is becoming a physician and, broadening that scope and see how you could, tremendously impact. It doesn't have to be systems, it doesn't have to be, the things that I'm interested in, but, broadening my perspectives and really providing that insight. That way we could tremendously impact our communities as a whole.
Great, thank you, Alex. And just for the panelists, there are questions that are popping up that are being directed to individual panelists. So if you can look in the Q&A, and maybe when I still want you most engaged here, and but in between your engagement, if you could be responding to some of the questions. Sam, you've been a leader in the global health arena, and maybe you can just share a couple of lines of what that experience has been like, and the opportunity that you had in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, of course. So the global health community here it's been a really big part of my experience, and it's honestly just it's a really incredible community. I think it's an amazing size in the sense that there's a lot of people involved and a lot of different work and different opportunities available, but it's also really tight knit and close. I work with Dr. Risa Hoffman, who's the director right now, and she's incredible. And everyone is just incredibly approachable. And I think it's just so easy to get involved. And the Global Health Program is great at connecting you with people that share your interests, and everyone is just so like readily available to talk with you and kind of just find something that's best fit for you. So during my first year, I helped lead the Global Health Conference, student-run Global Health Conference. Angie was involved the next year as well. It's a really great opportunity. And then the summer between my first and second year, I went to Malawi with Dr. Hoffman, as mentioned, as well as with one of the public health professors at the School of Public Health, which is also great. You can do lots of collaboration with other schools. And again, you have so much support. I think the program is really well designed so that it's just really easy to get involved, whether you've had experience in the past or it's just something that you're interested in exploring. And it's, yeah, I think between the students and the faculty, Dr. Miller is an exceptional leader in that field as well. It's just a really fun and awesome opportunity that I think if you're already interested or if you're just interested in exploring, you should definitely check out.
Yeah, and there's a question in the chat related to whether or not we anticipate going global again this year, and we do. Our global health program obviously was the global health opportunities abroad were shut down in 2 Marches ago, and we had a cohort of senior medical students that were 2 weeks away from getting on a plane for these experiences, but we're anticipating having them fully operational and excited to be rolling this out for the rising 4th year class for clinical experiences and also other research opportunities for folks who are coming in. A bunch of questions came in advance related to housing, and let me just throw out what these questions were and what are the housing options. Are there options for couples? What do most students do? Do they live on campus? So maybe first and second year folks may want to tackle this one.
Sure, I can start. So most first year students, at least for my class, ended up living in the Weyburn housing, which is kind of the most convenient, closest to campus housing option. I will say that the facilities are not amazing, and in my experience, and they do tend to be a little bit more expensive than other options that are in the greater Westwood area. So you're kind of trading in community, the sense of community, for like the price and the facilities, I suppose. So that's kind of the most popular option. We also have sort of on campus, but a little bit further away options, including family housing at University Village. And those options tend to be a little bit cheaper. However, they are a little bit farther away. And lastly, kind of the other most popular option is just to live off of campus. And most students do tend to do this by maybe their second or third year in our class, at least. And as I mentioned, you can kind of get a little bit more for your buck and maybe get a nicer facility, but you do have the drawback of maybe being a little bit further away from your peers and maybe potentially further away from campus as well. So it's just a balancing act, and it's up to you to see what you prioritize in terms of what you want to go for.
Thank you. And Hannah, how about the current first year class?
Sure. Yeah, I completely echo everything that Angie just said. Also to add on, there's a new building this year that's open to medical students. It's been very popular with individuals in my class called the Boulevard. So you can kind of, Google the Boulevard UCLA. It's very, very nice. It's all newly renovated. I think the pricing is all online as well. And there's a variety of options, which might include sharing your space with a roommate or a partner or family members or living on your own. So I know I have a lot of classmates that are there. But otherwise, as the year has progressed, people have kind of moved off campus a little bit more. And, a lot of the popular areas include Santa Monica, Brentwood, and also some of the greater Westwood areas as well. So if you have any specific questions about that, happy to answer those in the chat.
I just wanted to jump in and say there's family housing as well, which is, and I'll let Orly talk about it. I don't have a family, but it's a nice deal.
Orly.
Thank you for putting that in there. So yeah, I live in family housing. I've lived here. I took a year off last year also, so I've been here for 5 years now. It's really cheap. Like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath is $1,800 a month for family, and they're pretty good with maintenance and everything like that. There are little like community slides and little playgrounds on every single like area. So anybody with a family or even just with a couple, a couple can move in here as well. And I've really enjoyed it for community. There are other med students that live here as well, but also other grad students. So you get to kind of meet other people. And it's 4 miles off of campus. So I used to ride my bike to campus or drive my car. It was kind of depending on the time of year.
How about cars? That was another question. Folks want to know, does everyone have a car? Do you have to have a car?
I can talk about having a car as like a pre-clerkship person, because like you have to have one, I think, once you like have clinical rotations. And I live like an hour away, so I thought it was like pretty useful because I would be able to drive home on the weekends, and my brother went to undergrad at UCLA, so he could use the car too. So it ended up being worth it. I will say it's like $330 or something like that per quarter to park your car at Weyburn. And I think it's pretty similar if you get like parking on campus in one of the garages. Which is kind of pricey, but I do think it's useful in being able to get around LA. Like for the most part, you can get to like Santa Monica and things like that without a car. But if you want to go further downtown or things like that, having a car is really nice. But I will say that most people are either from the area like I am that are going to kind of be willing to drive people around who are like not from the area, who don't have cars. So for the most part, it doesn't really matter if you don't have a car, but if you want one, it's fun to have.
I would also plug that for if you're trying to just get around the kind of like West LA area as a pre-clerkship student, biking is totally an option. I have a car, which I never ever use, and I kind of just bike everywhere. And it's slightly dangerous, but hey, you got to live a little, you know. But it's pretty convenient to get around.
Great, thank you. And I think I would love for, we have just 4 minutes 4 or 5 minutes left, and it would be really great if you folks can each share something that you have really enjoyed about the DGSOM community. So we'll start with Hannah.
Sure. So I just wanted to start off by throwing out the anatomy tutors, a nice shout out. So as a first year, especially starting first year with a lot of online courses, anatomy tutors have been like a really important part, at least of my first year. So Angie has been my tutor multiple times and she's awesome. So huge shout out to her. Thank you for getting me through. It's also just like a really fun way to build a community. You're, working with students, doing things you love and learning. So highly recommend engaging with the anatomy tutors when you get here at DGSOM.
Great. Nanye?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just been MSc and our class. I think that
MSc stands for, just tell them.
Oh, Medical Student Council, and like the class of 2023. I think the opportunities we've had to like throw events, and especially like pre-pandemic, to kind of just hang out and do things. We're working on our class video. I just like really enjoy getting to know our class, and especially as a prime injury student, sometimes I just really wanted to make sure that I also knew the Westwood class, and I feel like it's been really great being able to do that.
Great. And Angie?
Hi.
Favorite thing about the community is the question.
Say that again?
We're just running through favorite, something that you really loved about the DGSOM community.
So much to choose from. I kind of wrote about this in my Q&A response, but I feel like I can't see it, so I'm not sure if I just missed it or I accidentally dismissed it. But I guess I'll quickly talk about like how the administrators are super engaged in our well-being. As a well-being representative, I kind of like to liaise between like the Behavioral Wellness Center as well as the students. And so just seeing how invested they are in students' well-being, whether that's, through academic office, really normalizing small group tutoring and having so many people get involved in anatomy tutoring, like Hannah said, or whether that's fostering or encouraging the well-being representatives to host events that kind of bring the community together. For instance, in this past year, we kind of had, over the holidays, we collected recipes from a lot of the students in our class and made a little cookbook that was very nice that people could look back on. Things like that. It just really shows that the administrators really want us to, not only prioritize our schoolwork, but also to prioritize a collaborative environment. And that really just coming from the top down is a really nice feeling, and it's kind of one of my favorite things about UCLA.
Thank you, Angie. And Sam?
Yeah, I think coming from the East Coast, I didn't really know anyone out in LA, and I was pretty nervous about developing a community here and building a life. And I think I've just been pretty amazed by how easy it was to build like a really just a well-rounded life, one with friends and a social life and things outside of medical school. And I think the people here from day one are just really open and eager to develop relationships that go beyond just, you know, being classmates and peers, but really close friends.
And I remember meeting Sam on second look.
Yeah.
Vividly remember that. All right, how about you, Alex?
Yeah, just a second, what everybody has been saying, I think the support from administration, you know, they're pretty responsive, even when we have a little bit of, you know, conflict, you know, it's all resolved relatively quickly, and they're pretty responsive to a lot of our requests. And also, I truly appreciate how quick like SAO is in terms of some requests such as like transcripts or like any information that we need for like scholarships or any other opportunities and like financial aid. Everybody at UCLA is pretty good at like ensuring that you have what you need to succeed, and the stress in terms of outside of academics, they try to minimize as much as possible. They try to streamline things for you. I'm gonna throw a plug in. I did love the second year banquet that we had. I celebrated with KJ. I don't know if we're doing it again at this upcoming class, but it was super fun. Basically, the school celebrated us when we were done with second year before we were going into step one dedicated. That was a lot of fun. You know, so I just want to throw that in there because I wrote down my favorite memory of it.
Thank you, Alex. And then last but certainly not least, our senior students who are leaving us soon, and of whom we're so proud. So something about DGSOM. Pradeep.
Yeah, I'm gonna just two quick things. So one is I think just my classmates, having all of you on the panel, and I think just the rest of my classmates that I've had the privilege of training with, I'm just constantly inspired by everyone that is a part of this community. And then the second thing is mentorship. I remember like a difficult transition between my PhD, and I was deciding if I wanted to take a couple more years off to pursue this opportunity that came up. I remember going to Dr. Miller's office, and he just kind of gave me the support that made me confident in the decision that I ultimately ended up choosing. And that kind of mentorship and flexibility in the opportunities that are available, I think, is just an incredible part of the UCLA and DGSOM culture.
Thank you. And Kalunji?
Yes. So again, like I moved out here from Florida, and echoing kind of what Sam said, it was really, really easy for me to find community out here. One of the things I love so much, not only about my classmates, but about the faculty, is that they're really easy to have fun with, and we have like so much fun together. Alex, that banquet was lit. Probably had a little bit too much wine, but it was okay. Everybody did. It was awesome. So everybody is super fun to celebrate with, and throughout medical school, there's so many milestones that there is, so many things to celebrate along the way. But there's also really hard times, and there's things that kind of go on outside of medicine, from the pandemic to social justice, and they're here for that kind of stuff too. To personal things too. I had a lot of personal things come up throughout medical school, and it's been always easy to lean on my faculty. There's nobody that I've been too intimidated to go to and say, hey, I need help. And every time I've been able to do that, or I've done that, they've been able to help, and it's just really made the experience very, very special. So I'm gonna definitely miss this place, a lot, and I hope to be back in the future.
Great. And Orly, just bring it home.
Just quickly, I mean, echoing what everybody has said, DGSOM is so supportive 100 times over. I've always felt supported throughout my time here, and that's really what the spirit is of this school. And I know deciding to come to a big academic center for medical school is kind of scary, because everyone is like well known for everything they do, but they'll also take the time to sit with you and like explain what they're doing and help you understand stuff. And I think that's not, it's not something that you expect necessarily. And I've been amazed time and time again throughout medical school how down to earth everybody is here, from the staff to the well-renowned faculty members at Reagan and other hospital systems. And I think the biggest thing that I've really enjoyed here is just having so much diversity, both my student class and also my patient population. It's been just such a phenomenal honor to be a medical student here.
Right. Thank you all for sharing your advice, your thoughts, your impressions, and most importantly, I hope that folks who are trying to decide about where they'd like to go to medical school will have appreciated the spirit of DGSOM from this session. So thank you again, and I'm going to pass the baton back again to Dr. Braddock.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Greetings, everyone. Thanks so much to the students for sharing your experiences. I dropped off to give you guys a little space to hear from your colleagues, and really looking forward to, for you to have the chance a little bit later to interact with them in a little bit more informal setting. So now we're going to transition to talking a little bit about equity and diversity inclusion at David Geffen School of Medicine. And to lead us through that conversation, I'm delighted to introduce my colleagues, Dr. Kathy Brown, radiology faculty and assistant dean for equity and diversity inclusion, and Dr. Dan Kozman, general internist and also assistant dean for equity and diversity inclusion. Doctors Brown and Kozman are phenomenal contributors to our overall mission, provide terrific leadership and thought leadership in the EDI space, are very accessible and approachable faculty leaders for really all of our trainees, medical students, house staff, and more, and have been very, very vital to our EDI efforts. I'm going to turn things over to them, and then I'm going to put on a different hat, and that's why I changed my background. As Executive Director of the Anti-Racism Roadmap, I'll be delighted to be part of the panel. So I'll turn things over to Dr. Kozman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Braddock. We really are thrilled that you all have been accepted to the medical school. We really hope that you are celebrating and really, this is an incredible accomplishment. So congratulations to you all. I really hope that we'll have the opportunity to be working with you and training you. But just wanted to open us up by first saying, the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Office is here to make sure that everybody who comes into this space, into our learning environments, comes and is able to do exactly the things that you've been wanting to do all along, right? Coming into a space, being able to thrive, being able to really take advantage of everything that's available, whether that be research opportunities, community outreach, you name it, right? Physician and, whatever it is that you feel is your passion, your place for really kind of making a mark in this space. And so our office is working to ensure and support our trainees, our faculty, our staff to be able to do that. And so with that, I want to also allow Dr. Brown to open up with some comments as well.
Thank you. We're just so excited to be here with you today at the start of your journey. And I just add my welcome to those that you've already received. This is a great opportunity for us to have a chance to engage in some conversations that are really important to both you as our future students and also as our future colleagues, because what we're trying to do is really change medicine and change healthcare and health, as we've talked about before. And so it's really important that we have dialogues that are honest and courageous and open. And we're just so delighted that you are here with us today. We are committed to working with you to have a more diverse and inclusive environment. And we really think that it is part of everything that we do, our curriculum, our activities. It's really, really critical in everything we do. So, again, thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to talking with our student panelists.
Yes, definitely. And part of the way of having these honest conversations Dr. Brown is alluding to is really engaging very closely with our students and making sure that there's plenty of space, plenty of time to make sure that we are able to hear what is the active experience of our trainees. And so there are a few different ways that we do that. I'm going to invite our student panelists to please put on your videos. And as they're doing that, you know, our office does meet regularly with students. We have an open door policy, really, and we have regular office hours that are available every week, and definitely are available to meeting outside of those office hours as well. But really, this is an office that is here to listen, first of all, and then to really kind of strategize around how do we address any issues that come up, and also, you know, to enable groups to be able to do the things that they want to do and really kind of serving their community. And so in addition to you know, the office hours, we have EDI student reps that are part of each class. So we have 2 from each class that we meet with monthly throughout the year, and also in between those meetings as well for various issues or projects that have come up. But beyond that, we also meet with our student affinity group leaders, and we meet with them quarterly, and really to make sure that we are that they are aware of, you know, what our office is able to assist with, and to make sure that we're able to help strategize in ways to make sure that they're able to do the things that they want to do. And so with that, I wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Yeah, I wanted to open us up just with some introductions. So if you could each please, you know, introduce yourselves, where you grew up, the group you're representing, and the general mission of your group. And so I'll call on people. So Baba, could you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, how's it going, everyone? My name is Baba Adejuibe. I am an MS1. I grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa. But I did my undergrad over on the East Coast in upstate New York. And I'm here representing both SNMA, and I'm also actually one of the EDI student reps that Dr. Cosman was talking about. And just the general kind of goal of SNMA is just community building and the promotion of equity and sustainability and programming targeted towards underrepresented minorities in health. And so we do that in various ways through health and service and mentorship. So yeah, it's nice to be here with you all.
Thanks, Baba. Beth, can you take it next?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Beth, and I'm also a first year here. I'm originally from Riverside County, and I went to undergrad here at UCLA. I'm representing American Medical Women's Association, so AMWA, and our organization is centered on the advancement of women in medicine, in addition to striving for health equity in women's health. Although we are centered on women's health, we're open to all female identifying students and all students interested in women's health. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks so much. Dalen?
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry, I'm having some connective issues, but hi, my name is Dylan Rodriguez, also an MS1. I'm here representing Undocument. I'm one of the few undocumented students on campus. So it's a very organization close to my heart. We're basically, just here to support any undocumented students, including DACA and without DACA, and also like any outside immigrant communities in the greater LA area. Yeah, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks so much. All right, Dustin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dustin. Pronouns are he, him. I grew up just outside Las Vegas, Nevada. And then I went to college up in Washington State. I'm here representing Pride Alliance, which is the affinity group for LGBTQIA plus identifying individuals. Our group is mostly focused on creating a community for these identifying folks and their allies to get together, create networking opportunities like advocacy, both in UCLA and in the greater Los Angeles community. So yeah, it's nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Dustin. Guneet?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Guneet Kaur. I use she, her. I am originally from the Bay Area, but went to school at Scripps down here in SoCal and spent a year in New York in grad school. I'm representing the Health Equity Hub, which is kind of the umbrella organization under which a lot of the health justice initiatives and kind of movement building, student-led movement building work here at DGSOM are housed. And so we kind of house a range of initiatives from Students for an Anti-Racist Curriculum, who are currently, it's a group of MS2s who are currently doing an audit of our curriculum from an anti-racist lens, to working closely with our community partners, Justice LA and Frontline Wellness, that are organizing around things like closing the Men's Central Jail and getting police out of some of the UCLA health affiliated hospitals. So yeah, that's the Health Equity Hub. Also, Jalen is one of my co-leads for the next year. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, Goody. Holly?
Hi, everybody. My name is Holly. I'm a first-year medical student, and I grew up in Taipei, Taiwan, and my parents were actually Burmese immigrants, so I had many languages and cultures growing up, and I came to the US when I was 11 and settled in Riverside County. And I am representing APAMSA, which stands for Asian Pacific American Medical Student Association. And our goal is to provide services, resources, support, community education to underserved AAPI communities in LA, as well as the larger underserved population. So some of the things that we do include improving AAPA representation in the bone marrow registry, providing services to those at risk for hepatitis B, putting together health fairs to underserved AAPI communities in LA, and mentorship for the APA communities in UCLA.
Thanks, Holly. Reem?
Hello, my name is Reem. I am an MS1. I grew up in Orange County, so not too far from here. Also went to UCLA for undergrad, and I'm representing the Muslim Student Union, also known as MSU. So the mission of MSU is to kind of create a safe space for Muslim students and colleagues at DGSOM, just to kind of support one another and to discuss kind of in what ways we can improve our experience at DGSOM and advocate for our needs. And in addition to that, we also aim to provide resources to the DGSOM community and colleagues on how to provide culturally humble and compassionate patient-centered care to Muslim patients and their families.
Thanks, Reem. All right, Samantha?
Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha Garcia. I'm from Santa Monica and went to USC for undergrad, so I've been in LA for a long time. I'm here representing the Latino Medical Student Association, LMSA, and our mission is to unite and empower medical students through mentorship service so that we can advocate for the health of Latino, Latinx communities.
Thanks, Samantha. Last but not least, Sam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I'm a first-year medical student, one of the EDI representatives. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska originally, but I got my undergraduate degree and PhD on the East Coast. And now I'm here representing DCI, which is Disability and Chronic Illness, advocating for students with disabilities, as well as creating a community for those folks.
Thanks so much. Is Ava on?
Yes, hello
sorry,
everyone.
You're on another screen.
Hi, I'm Ava. I was born in Iran and grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I also attended UCLA for undergrad, and now I'm in the Prime program. I'm representing First Gen today. First Gen is an extension of the larger UCLA-wide First to Go initiative. And we really try to highlight the medical students who are first in their family to attend college. And our main goals are to build community, empower medical students who are first gen, provide mentorship and also career guidance.
Well, you know, it's such a diverse community, and I think that that's really what this panel speaks to. And you all have done some incredible work in your groups. I want to ask you, could you speak a little bit towards any on-campus activities that your groups have been involved with to support your own community or various members of our population?
I can go first. I think one of the main things from a document that we've been doing, it's just providing more resources for not just students, but also providers within the UCLA Health realm. to be able to, train, for a bit, lack of a better word, how to be more, compassionate, empathetic, and how to be able to know the resources that undocumented patients need when they show up at our clinics, or if we are just walking around campus, and then you might have someone talk to you, be able to have those resources if anyone were to ask you. So my upperclassmen have done a wonderful job in creating little badges, which has all the resources for a number of different health clinics or helplines that you can call to be able to do that. And we're actually creating right now a little bit of a Know Your Rights curriculum, kind of like line series, to be able to have more training now, which we're really excited about, just because it's something important that not a lot of people know how to handle, and then it's always going to show up at your doorstep.
Thanks so much. Yeah. I think you started us off speaking with off-campus support, and so maybe we can talk about that right now in supporting the broader LA community.
Sure, I can. Oh, go ahead.
I'll be really brief. Sorry, Holly. So yeah, for AMWA at the beginning of last year, we did host a PATH training. So that's Physicians Against the Trafficking of Humans. So that's also an additional resource to, if you don't have experience or training in how to navigate patients that have been victims of trafficking, this is a pretty informative session for you to kind of get a better idea of what to do in those situations. So that's one thing that we do. And we also have a mentorship program with the undergraduate chapter of AMWA. So that's more of like I guess like a mentorship pipeline program to help undergraduate students navigate being pre-meds at UCLA.
Yeah, and I can talk a little bit about APAMSA's work off campus. So recently we kind of started a bunch of collaboration with community agencies who are very involved in COVID vaccination efforts in Chinatown and Koreatown. And we are going to extend that community collaboration later down the line to help them with their efforts as well. Something else that we've been doing recently is creating anti-API violence pamphlets to distribute to the various vaccination sites and also UCLA clinics. Something else that we are planning, or we've been doing in the past, is hosting health fairs for the underserved AAPI communities in LA. And we hope to continue doing that after the COVID vaccination efforts have been done.
I can jump in and share a little bit of what LMSA does. Similar to what Holly mentioned, LMSA also hosts a health fair in Lenox, which is an under-resourced community here in LA. And it's really student run. We have residents that help out as well, and upperclassmen. Unfortunately, due to COVID, this didn't happen in person, but we did have a virtual health fair to talk about hesitancy towards like the COVID vaccine. And we had some physicians who identify as Latinx come speak to community members, which was really awesome. And then, as mentioned earlier with some of the other orgs, we also reach out to undergraduate organizations here at UCLA, and also as well in the local LA community, such as Neiman Thorpe, and provide mentorship to pre-med students in the form of mock interviews and reading personal statements and just providing general support.
Awesome. Any other comments?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to Health Equity Hub's work. So I mentioned earlier the kind of some of the partnership that's been that the Health Equity Hub has historically had with Justice LA. There are a lot of local efforts to downsize and to ultimately close the Men's Central Jail in downtown Los Angeles, which disproportionately incarcerates, of course, Black and Brown men. And so a lot of kind of abolition-oriented work in partnership with community organizers who are in the ground and who are local to the South Central community. And then also there's been a lot of work at the Health Equity Hub in partnership with a lot of folks across the UCLA Health umbrella who are advocating for UCLA Health accepting Medi-Cal for its patients, Medicare and Medi-Cal. And so yeah, just working across the boundaries of our school and working really with a bunch of allied healthcare professionals across the network to advocate for that for our patients.
I mean, all the things that you all are describing are such powerful initiatives and more important than ever, especially over the last year. Everything has really been highlighted further by the pandemic, but has been, long in place. And so it's incredible to see the amount of community outreach that you all are doing and advocacy work. And I'm curious if you can speak to the people that you've collaborated with on campus or off campus to do some of this community outreach and advocacy. Speaking, have you been involved with faculty? Are there house staff, residence fellows that you've been involved with, or other staff?
I think one of the things that I am like blown away about with UCLA is just how collaborative the environment is, and how I think open to collaboration everyone is. And so SNMA has had different events, both like awareness type events with LMSA and other different organizations as well. And then we've also collaborated with community partners and different people within the LA community to do work, both spreading awareness about different topics related to both underrepresented and Black communities, but also to do effective sort of like work within the community as well. And so for me, what has sort of blown me away about UCLA and coming from far away has just been how open to collaboration everyone is. And I think I think for me, it highlights just how intersectional everyone, or it highlights how important intersectionality is to this UCLA, to the community, and how we have to understand that we are on our, I guess what I'm trying to say is that UCLA has a good way of encapsulating the whole person and the whole community, and we do that through our various different affinity groups as well. So yeah, in a long way.
Thanks, Pablo. Any others? Yeah, go ahead, Pablo.
Echoing Baba's sentiments, I think we cannot do anything that we're doing without the support of faculty, staff, and other trainees, of course. And just some examples for funding, we closely work with Aurora, Narshal, Marianne from the SAO office, Mel and you, Dr. Cosman, with the EDI office. And you all reply always in such a quick turnaround and such eager to support our initiatives. Dr. Miller, Dr. Braddock, they're always happy to give their opening remarks or closing remarks for conferences that we hold. And one of our advisors, Dr. Oye, he is always able to grab connections and reach out to a bunch of physicians and help us put together a health fair. And I just think that DGSOM, of course, is super supportive and really put our needs and our desires for these initiatives at their priority.
Thanks, Holly.
Yeah. Like I think Holly and Baba both hit the nail on the head there. I mean, yeah, it's really hard to like not find, people that are willing to support within UCLA, these EDI initiatives. I mean, for like Pride Alliance specifically, over the last few months, we've worked, very closely together to kind of start this like pronoun initiative, Badge Buddy. So actually, I have my badge right here, but basically we've been working together and, oh, that doesn't work. But it's basically a badge buddy that you put with your badge that puts your pronouns, and it's, an initiative to help make speaking about pronouns a lot easier and simple, specifically for, working with gender diverse patients here in Los Angeles. So that's been something that's I think been really rewarding to just like be a part of, because it's just been awesome. And then also UCLA Health has recently started this kind of network. It's called the UCLA Pride Health Network. And it's just a group of faculty, staff, trainees that all come together and meet pretty regularly to plan events for educating, training, in a way that is sensitive towards LGBTQ individuals, especially now in a time where lots of legislation is being introduced that is just very, very openly transphobic across the country. And so working, as a unit together to, address this, advocate for our patients in the best way that we can here in Los Angeles. And yeah, so it's been great.
Thanks, Dustin. I mean, you kind of alluded to the need for local community also in terms of having support. And I wonder if you all could talk about how locally, not thinking about outreach or advocacy as far as off campus, but specifically for the groups that you represent, how do you focus on making sure that trainees or local community members within the UCLA campus or UCLA, DJSOM, how does support happen there, and how are you kind of contributing to that through your groups?
I think a very pertinent and clear example of just how this kind of support happens, and how we sort of are there for each other as a community would be with the sad and tragic events that happened with the shooting that happened in Atlanta, affecting the Asian community. But what we saw as a community was a banding together of different groups and different people coming together and supporting. So I can say from SNMA's perspective, we immediately came and offered support. And we saw an outpour of support from various other different groups and organizations speaking to this issue. And so I think that's just one clear and pertinent example. But outside of that, I think that there's often through these collaborative efforts and through these different events, like for instance, the Immigrant Health Awareness Week. That was one event where we collaborated with LMSA to bring to put on an event that supported the community. And so these are just two very clear examples of ways in which we sort of collaborate and do that.
I can speak a little bit about this too. Oh, sorry, Ava. Okay. Just like, when keeping partnership with community members and all that stuff, it's very important for us first to reflect that a lot of the community doesn't trust the medical system, and that as medical students, they're coming in like, we're not trying, like, a lot of people think like, why are you coming here? You're not doing part of this community, or like, you're just trying to add something to your CV, which is something that we had to keep aware of, and then be able to be there, just go into these communities and be a person that is not wanting to be a savior, but be that resource for them if anything else is needed. And so that's a lot of the times how I look at things, and then how I've seen my upperclassmen keep those things in mind as well, and how we can continue creating partnerships and members. And we have a lot of partnerships with immigration lawyers and community members that are part of the nonprofits that do a lot of the amazing advocacy work in communities, American communities, that it's what are we here for? What can we help you with? And if we'll need any training for us or anything for our own efforts, they're always willing to help, because we always keep in mind that they're the leaders. We're just here as a resource. And yeah, so that's kind of a little bit.
I think for first gen, as a first gen student, going into med school especially, there's a lot of imposter syndrome. And I think being in this small community of first gen faculty and other first gen students really helps show you that what you think are weaknesses or struggles have actually empowered you, and they're really big strengths that help you serve the community as well. And I think with these small first-gen families, which is like small groups we have with one faculty member who is also first-gen and also about 7 to 8 other students, it helps create the small atmosphere where there's no such thing as dumb questions. You can always ask like, what are wards, or like, what does it mean to like rotate? How do you like create your schedule for what order you're going to do your rotations in, what to do research? And there's always this small community that you can go to for resources where it really feels like a family. And of course, everyone at DJSM is so welcoming, but it really helps to have that small group community family feel.
Yeah, could any of your other groups, any of you speak to more of the mentorship, like formal mentorship relationships that have been set up, or more formal mentorship programs that you've set up through your programs?
I can speak a little bit to what the MSU does. So there's an undergraduate Muslim Student Association, and under that is an organization for Muslims interested in going to medical school. So we do have a formal mentorship program with them where we can get paired up with a pre-med student who's applying through the cycle. And that's something I participated in this past year, and just kind of going with a student every step of the process from personal statements to interviews has been really rewarding. And a lot of these students, a lot of the Muslim students we work with are also first gen and the first in their families to attend medical school. So that's been a really rewarding experience. So we work a lot with the MSA and the undergrad campus here.
Any other groups?
Yeah, I can speak briefly. So AMWA has 2 mentorship programs. So the first is with medical students. So any year from like the first year to 4th year, if you sign up for a mentorship, like in our graduate mentorship program, you get paired up with someone in a specialty of your interest. And they're a physician that's been in that field probably for a significant amount of time. And so that can serve as a resource for you to either get connected to research opportunities or shadowing once that is opened up again. And then on top of that, we have the undergraduate mentorship program that I briefly mentioned earlier. So very similar to other mentorship programs, we have an undergraduate chapter of AMWA that, we host about like 3 mixers a year. And that's just like on Zoom where we get to know each other. And then there's a more formalized mentorship program where based on your interests, you get paired up with an undergraduate student and you kind of mentor them throughout either applying to med school or just general advice as like pre-meds. But yeah, that's what we do.
Thanks, Beth. So I wanted to ask also, some of these things your groups have done on their own, and some of them you've collaborated with the EDI office around. Can you speak to the ways in which the EDI office has been helpful in terms of like logistical support or any other support?
I'll start. I would say that the EDI office was really instrumental in connecting us with some really influential speakers, and we got to have private meetings with them before they gave their overall big lecture to everyone who wanted to attend. So I thought that was very helpful.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, one of the things that we try to do is bring in speakers who speak to areas where things have been overlooked or not given enough really attention as far as equity, diversity, inclusion issues. And so we do make it a point to bring outside speakers in to speak on various topics and try to make sure that the kind of not just talks, but more kind of interactive sessions, and really allow it to ignite further conversations and further advocacy efforts, even locally for our own community. Dustin, you were talking about more the badge buddies and that sort of thing. So can you speak to like how that rolled out? How did that happen?
Yeah. So I kind of joined the party a little late, as the project had already started before, like the summer before I had even enrolled. But basically it was just this idea, and the former president of Pride Alliance, Andy Gong, reached out about this, and it was basically meetings to talk about like how this would work out logistically, creating the badge buddy, actually getting that made, and then the information pamphlet that comes along with it, best ways to bring up pronouns, how to correct people if they misgender someone. It was just kind of like, in a way, like guiding us to kind of create this program in the best way that it could be created. The EDI office really, any questions you may have, whether it's logistical or maybe funding, or it just, everything is there, and they're just so willing to help. They're here to help us realize their vision, and it was just, yeah, it was a great process. Meeting up regularly, talking about progress, talking about what needs work, how to set up the website, everything. It was just a very good process, and it was just wonderful to be a part of.
Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, this is, I realize that this is a question that feels like it's almost like a plant, but in some ways, the best way that I can think of how we've interacted with the various affinity group leaders is really, people come to our office with ideas, and then we try to figure out how do we make them happen, how do we support. So this is really just trying to be practical and trying to figure out, where are the gaps, where are our blind spots, what are the things that really people are coming up against, or ideas for like innovations and things that could really improve the inclusivity of our campus and of our community, and how do we kind of really strategize around that together. So this is not, the dean's office coming into spaces and saying things should be done this way and that way. It's really a lot of engagement across, various community groups and students. And I was wondering if Dr. Braddock could also speak to that as well, as far as, how is it that, we've been trying to incorporate student voices in various committees and various councils that have been put together, also in the setting of the anti-racism roadmap.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, and again, I'd turn to the students to comment on this. We've, I think, had a very active general sort of student, medical student council with class representatives from the different tracks, a lot of interaction around different dimensions of medical student work, and all of us in the dean's office regularly attend those. My colleagues in the EDI office have, as you heard, regular interactions with all the folks that you see here in those groups, and we've been, certainly from my standpoint, I think we wanted to be very supportive, both in terms of that sort of advice and support, but also financially for different activities. I'm proud to say that we've hosted over the past several years, or maybe not hosted, we've sponsored gatherings of meetings of regional and national groups that you've seen represented here. We're proud to do so. I think it's really one of the things that we can do to support that work. There are other examples of more specific student engagement you've heard mentioned here. The Students for Anti-Racist Curriculum have been working quite extensively with Dr. Napolitano and his team on both our current and future curriculum. We have students who were involved this past year in our Common Book program, both selecting this year's Common Book, which was How to Be an Anti-Racist by Kendi, as well as helping to facilitate some of the sessions with students. So we feel like these are great partnerships because they allow us to really kind of co-create those activities with students. We bring to the table, hopefully a tiny bit of wisdom, and we also have funding and support. But we know that the passions and insights of students who we want to really empower. There's the word empower again. Really want to empower that engagement as much as we can.
Thanks, Dr. Braddock. Yeah, I think having student voices at the table has been clearly a theme that I've been seeing over and over. I'm relatively new to the dean's office. I joined just recently in September, October of this past year, and I've really seen that every council that's put together, every new committee has really been very intentional in having students join, and not just join, but also be very vocal and make sure that the recommendations that are being given are strongly incorporated and really guide what we're trying to do here. And so we really, take that same mantra in the EDI office and try to figure out what are the spaces where we can really improve, and where can we continue to innovate. Is there anything that we haven't touched on? Gunit, I see you unmuting. Any
Yeah.
comments?
I was just going to add something really quick, Dr. Wasden, on the same thoughts. The EDI office is honestly really a prime reason that the Health Equity Hub exists. It has been a pillar of support in almost every stage of the process, as working closely with our upperclassmen in a lot of the founding efforts. The Health Equity Hub has a physical space now, which is really exciting. In class of 2025, y'all will be the first class that has access to that. We're kind of in the process of opening that up, but it's really meant to serve as a space for students to organize, students to movement, build together, as a sanctuary for students, students of color, first-gen students, queer students, etc. And so the EDI office has been instrumental in managing a lot of the logistics of that space, figuring out who gets swipe access, as well as Dr. Braddock. And then also one of the missions, or just, one of the missions of the original HEH founders was to build a library and have kind of a library of progressive movement texts in the Health Equity Hub office. And that was an initiative that we worked closely with the EDI office on as well. So yeah, just at every stage of the process, Students for an Anti-Racist Curriculum, a lot of the support for the pipeline programs to increase underrepresented minorities here at DGSOM, a lot of that work is done deeply in partnership with both the Dean's Office and the EDI office. And then I also just wanted to add that, I did, both in undergrad and in grad school, I was involved in advocacy work. And to be honest, here at DGSOM, the accessibility of the deans, the accessibility of every single person in power who is so deeply committed to this work is unparalleled at any institution I've been. Every email you send, you get a response within a few hours. Every initiative you want to push forward, you have folks reaching out to you, helping follow up. You can ask Dr. Napolitano and Dr. Braddock how many emails they've gotten from every single one of us and how late they've been sometimes. But yeah, a lot of that, just a lot of that frontline interfacing work that we as students are trying to push forward is the same work that admin is trying to push forward, is the same work that the deans are trying to push forward. And so just the level of that partnership and the depth of those shared values is unparalleled in any other space that I've been. So just wanted to add that as well.
Thanks so much, Kate. Really, I think the main point that I would make is that every institution has work to do, okay? But really the thing that really gives me hope and gives me real energy out of being at DGSOM is that we have a very activated student body. We have an activated core group of faculty, house staff, and staff. And with that, if you don't have that in place, really you can't make active changes that are innovative and really allowing for an inclusive and equitable space. And so we have that here. Does that mean that everything is perfect and everything has been figured out? No, but we have the people in place, and we have, I think, the mechanism in place to really allow the conversations that need to happen that Dr. Brown alluded to. And that has allowed a lot of great innovations over the years, and we are very optimistic and looking forward to continuing to work with our students and other community members to take this further forward. So thank you all so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to continuing to collaborate with your groups. And thank you, Dr. Braddock. And I'm going to hand it back over to Dr. Lucero.
Hi, thanks everyone. This was a wonderful panel. I am going to transition to, thank you all. Yeah, I'm going to transition over to, we're going to do we have a few minutes for any last minute question and answer, but I do want to have Travis jump on here because there's a couple things that as we transition to the new session that he's going to go over and support and housekeeping things. So Travis?
Oh man, sorry about that, everybody. Something gets in your throat right when you need to speak, and it happens. And hopefully I think we I think we're going to probably try to do this at the closer to the end, just so we can have. Yeah, we'll probably pull up a slide closer to the end, right around maybe in about another 10 minutes before we transition, because we want to make sure that you stay here to see if there's any other questions. I will say, as we, I look at the Q&A chat, if there are any additional questions that you still feel like you can hopefully get an answer, myself, Dr. Lucero's here, and I think we still have a couple other leaders here who could possibly answer if there are questions that you feel like weren't addressed, or you need additional clarification on those, please put them in the Q&A panel now, so that we can address them. In 10 minutes, we will be closing this webinar down, or we'll leave it up, but we will be moving over to the Zoom meeting so that we can do our breakouts with our peer connections with our current students. And following that, we'll do a short transition, and then we will do a breakout where you get to join different rooms with the deans to go into even more details and more questions, and just that more individual, more time, smaller groups with each dean. So that is up to come. And when we get to probably in another 10 minutes, we will share that new Zoom meeting link. So we encourage you to stay tuned for that, and we will post it in the chat as well. So I'm trying to kill some time to see if we get any additional questions.
Yeah, any questions? I know we're going to go to a break after this, because I know it's been a long morning, lots of information. And again, as Travis mentioned, we're going to put up a slide with the transition details. You will have a 10-minute break after if there's any additional questions here. And that 10-minute break, once that's over, we'll again transition to, it's a different session, and Travis will give you the details. So any additional questions that have come up, happy to put it in the Q&A. I know we have people answering the questions, and then we can also answer live, but we have them putting it in the chat. So any questions, go ahead and feel free to put those in. And we'll give it here a few minutes. If nobody has a question, then we obviously we can transition to the break. We have a question about whether the session will be recorded. It is. This current webinar session is being recorded. The following sessions, because they're in breakout rooms, they won't be recorded. And so the idea behind after the break, the two separate sessions that we're going to have is your peer connections. The idea behind that is that you're going to be able to have a smaller group setting, so you can talk to current students, and those won't be recorded. And then the last session of our second look is the casual conversations. Again, the casual conversations we brought back. I know it was very popular for our interview day. And what we did is we expanded it and have different breakout rooms with different topics. And so those also won't be recorded, because it would be hard. That's going to allow you to bounce between rooms. So you'll be able to talk to all of us based on what room you go into. So you will have time to meet your classmates as you go into the peer connections, because there will be one current student, but you're going to be in a room with your own classmates in those sessions. And so that'll give you a chance to connect. You also will be able to do it when you're in the casual conversations with the deans, because it's just going to be, you'll bounce between rooms. But I think the idea of being able to connect with your class will be with those peer connection breakout rooms. And we have a question about, do the medical students have access to most of the resources undergraduates have available, libraries, gym, etc.? Oh, Sam is typing the answer as we speak. So I'll let him answer it as a current student. And
I would like to jump back in really quickly just to reiterate. So I did send out a message to all of you I forget which session it was in. I think it was during the one with Dr. Miller with the first student panel we did, because we were getting a few questions about housing. And so I want to reiterate that for everyone, just in case it comes back up. So we just received notice, the information from the housing office on what's going to happen. They've been doing a lot of just figuring things out and deciding, okay, if we can even do in person, and which affected the housing opportunity, the housing availability for last year. So now that they have an understanding of that, the housing application will open on April 15th, which is on Thursday. I should know this week. This is my birthday week, so I should know the days of the week really well by now. But Thursday, April 15th. And so the admissions office, we are going to send you an email letting you know when the application is open. We're gonna send you links to the housing office and the links and the sites that you need to access the application, to see the rates and the contracts and all of that. And so my job, our job with admissions, particularly my job, will be ensuring that if you have been admitted, which you are because you're here on this call, and if you want to be considered for university housing, that you will be considered. So the main thing you need to do at that time is to submit that application. And so if I have a list and your name is on it and you have not completed, they don't have your application, that's when you will hear from me to send that information in. That's the only information I have. If you have any questions about, like, I know the students were talking about the boulevard and all these other places. I don't know the difference between the boulevard and the street and an avenue, if those even exist, but the students can answer that. And the housing website will list all of the housing options that you have. And they have an email option that you can communicate with them directly as well. But you will get.
Why don't I just add a couple things, Travis?
Go ahead, Dr. Braddock.
Big picture housing. Every year we have a pretty substantial allocation of housing, such that every year everybody that wants housing and gets your application in on time will get housing. The Boulevard is a new property that's a short distance away from campus. I think it's a little under 2 miles. It's actually a beautiful property. It's a new apartment style living. It's actually new, like a year ago. Where ground level is retail and the upper floors, it's got a pool. It's actually pretty nice, but it is not like walking distance from campus. The question about first choice largely depends on your circumstance. Whether you get your application in the day before the deadline or a week before, as long as it's in the deadline, you'll be in the mix. But the priority really depends on how specific your request is. People with families, or people who are looking for units with specific other kinds of specific needs, it may be a little bit different than those who have more open needs. There also is a question about the SHIP waiver, which I wanted to address. We'll look up I don't know off the top of my head what the deadline is, but I just want to make the following comment. You of course it's totally fine if you want to waive SHIP because you all have other insurance or wish to get other insurance. That's totally your call. However, we strongly recommend that you not waive the SHIP insurance. The reason is that in order to have optimal access to healthcare, should you need it, it's maybe beneficial to you to have health insurance through SHIP, or if you're the age where maybe you're still on family policy, it's preferential to do that. So before you waive SHIP, I'd encourage you to talk to other students. We've had students who have waived SHIP and chosen to enroll in Covered California, which is a phenomenal program. But it does, particularly if you get in the managed part of Medi-Cal, your options of where you can see providers gets to be a little bit more limited. Again, totally your choice. But before you waive SHIP, I'd encourage you to talk to some of us, particularly folks in student affairs or admissions, or talk to current students.
While I have you both, we're getting some questions, I guess, sort of related to housing, but I guess it's really more on when current students should be thinking about, or when new students should be thinking about moving in. If base camp is starting on the 9th of August, when should they be thinking about moving in? And I guess that's going to affect when they should put in the moving.
What I would advise is, first gets back to the question from earlier in the morning, like, are we going to be on campus first day? Again, I think it's probably 90% likely that we will. That's going to change probably to 100% within the next couple of months. So Governor Newsom announced last week or so that basically it's intended that all restrictions related to the pandemic will be lifted by mid-June. So what happens from there, and that's based on California Department of Public Health. We're waiting for LA County Department of Public Health because we're in LA County to opine on that. And if they agree, because the conditions are a little bit different, different parts of the state, based on what LA County decides, which will happen probably within a week or so, UCLA campus will decide. University of California has already given us sort of the green light. So it's happening very dynamically. So we really will know probably within the next several weeks. If that comes to pass, then it will be 100% that will be on campus beginning the first day. When should you move in? Some people like to move in early, get acclimated. Some people like to move in later because you got things going on. You know, there'll be a window that you'll be provided of when you could move in. And I would encourage you again to reach out through the various communities to current students to get sort of tips on those questions, because it really does depend. As long as you're there on the first day, you'll be in good shape. Students in our Drew, Prime, and MSTP tracks, oftentimes there are activities before matriculations. You'll hear from leadership of those tracks separately about when those activities start. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, I'm getting the transition notice. So Travis, I think actually our team, Jack, is gonna pop up that slide, and then we're gonna put in chat the Zoom link. I think that was asked also on the questions on the Q&A, what the Zoom link was. So here is the Zoom link. Travis has also emailed it to you yesterday. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay.